Hey guys, what's up? Well, back off vacation and I'm trying to get caught up on uploading videos and making some videos and that kind of thing. Just kind of got back into the swing of things. I'm working. Of course, work always waits on me. There's always a lot to do when I get back, and I've been trying to finish up this Volvo as much as possible. So I want to give you a few updates on it as I'm going along here. I got the fuel pump replaced, the rear fuel pump, and I apologize, I lost a file again on that. But essentially replacing the fuel pump on one of these is just the reverse of taking it out and taking it apart. You just pull the pump out and just make sure you put the pump polarity back like it was, the wires back on the right place, and put it in with a new little strainer. And I had to end up getting the pump and the strainer from rockauto.com. I had to send off for it because the local O'Reilly's said that they had one, and when I got there it was the correct box, but the pump in it was not the right pump. Evidently somebody had needed the right pump for this car, and that's the only one around within 150 miles, and they knew that, so they got the right pump out of it. They put some other pump in it that was not the right one back in the box and returned it to the store, and the store didn't know any better, and so that's where we were. So I can't imagine anybody would do that this day and age, and that just shocks me. I'm traumatized. Can't believe somebody would even do something like that. Can you? So anyway, I had to send off for the pump, and I just put it on in, and it's just a straightforward replacement procedure. If you ever done any electric fuel pumps, you can do this one. And so now that has quieted the main pump, which is underneath the car and the carrier, it's quieted it down. So that's all back together, no leaks. So I'm sorry about that. I try not to ever leave somebody hanging, but it kind of is what it is. So that brings us to this. I've been driving this car around the neighborhood a pretty good bit and trying to give it some shakedown mileage before I take it out on the highway. It had another episode of smoking yesterday. This thing, it smokes and then it won't smoke, and it smokes and it won't smoke. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. I'm just going to keep driving a little bit, watch the oil level, and go on with that. And it's got some idling problems, which I think that's the IAC, idle air control valve, is probably, since it's in the lowest spot in there. I'll do a video on it when I work on it, but since it's in the lowest spot, it'll probably be full of oil, so I might go ahead and pull that off and clean it and see if I can kind of reroute it. But what I'm doing, there you go. I love Mustangs. Yeah. Wish I had an alarm clock that sounded like that, or a ringtone. So anyway, what I'm doing right now is I've noticed this thing has a really significant clunk up front on the right side. It's definitely coming from the right side, and so I thought I'd go ahead and get up on the jack and check into that. And I think I know what it is, but I just want to give it a going over. Usually when you have a clunk that's as bad as this one, you have a couple different culprits. You either have a lower ball joint that's going bad, or you have strut going bad. And I'll just go ahead and give it away a little bit. On this car, I noticed that this thing acts like this right front strut is dead, so that could definitely be a problem. And it's a BITCH to change the strut cartridges on these things, and I don't look forward to doing that. But you can buy a used one from the junkyard, but then again, you don't know if you're getting a good one or not. So, or you could do what my brother does and just keep on driving it until it's so bad that the strut locks in the extended position periodically and doesn't have any suspension travel until it decides to break free again, which I've discouraged him from doing that, but he gets a little bit of a kick out of things like that. So I personally don't do that. I think it's anything to do with the wheels and the tires and the suspension is not an area you want to experiment with as far as something breaking or causing a loss of control. That's just me though, maybe. But so anyway, I have this thing up on the jack, my trusty old cheapo jack I bought about 10 years ago, and the first thing, before I even got the wheel off, I did the shake test. You know what the shake test is? This is where you grab it at 9 and 3 and shake it, and then you do it at 12 and 6 and shake it, and if you have movement on any of these directions, then that tells you got something loose, and I found something right away. Now, I don't know if I can do this very well with one hand. That's what she said. But if I shake this, I'm definitely getting movement right here. And I can already tell you what that is. That is a bad outer tie rod, because tie rod end. Because when I come under here and look, do that test again. I don't know if you can see that in the dark, but that tie rod end's worn out. So it's got to have a tie rod in. And then I was looking under here, and this thing's been coated with oil from the little lady's oil leak she didn't ever have fixed. So it's pretty gunky under here, even after I've cleaned it up. And I was looking at the sway bar bushings. That's the number one, besides those two things. Well, that would be number 3, wouldn't it? This is called number 3 then. That's third in line cause for a clunk. Either your end links back here, which these are okay on the top, and they look like they're fine on the bottom too, but I'm going to double check that. Or the bushings where they go through the frame right here. And people tend to blame these a lot, and I've seen very few of these bushings ever wear out. Now, I've seen the end links wear out. That Mazda over there had that happen, and it caused all sorts of ruckus. But this is a really deep-seated clunk on this thing. I mean, it's something. Now, you know, I was talking about that just now, but I just thought of something I did not mention yet. Up here at the top, is that damn dog coming out? Up there at the top, you got a thing called a strut bushing, and those can come apart too, and the whole strut just kind of doesn't stay put up there. It kind of moves around and causes problems. So we're going to dig into this thing. I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel off, and I'll come back to this in a minute and tell you what, if anything, I found. So see you then. Okay, well, I'm a certified clunkologist, so that didn't take long to find out what was going on under here once I got this wheel off. First thing I found is that tire had a plug in it. The tires are junk anyway, they're old. Gonna have to be replaced, but they'll do for just driving around here. So, anyway, last up I told you that this thing had a little bit of slop in it. Well, once I got the wheel off, I don't know why that made a difference, but I guess maybe it had weight sitting on it, maybe, I don't know. But I could do this. Not supposed to be able to do that. So let's look at what's going on. Clunkology, the study of front end clunks. Okay, see this guy right here? This is your lower ball joint, and fortunately Volvo, I guess, knew that the ball joints were going to wear out on this. And you know, I have to ask, why does Volvo seem to be able to anticipate what's going to fail on their cars and then make it easy to replace? I don't get that. So anyway, there's the lower ball joint, and you look and see right there, hopefully, if I can get this camera angle okay while I'm manipulating the rotor. Can you see that? Go around right there. See all that movement? That's not supposed to do that at all. You're supposed to be completely tight there. So I think it does have a dead strut anyway, because I don't think that's all the clunk. That ball joint's absolutely doing most of that noise. But I was looking at this up here, by the way, and I noticed it looks like it spit some of its oil out. So when they do that, they're junk, they're shot. So anyway, my parts list on this side is going to be a tie rod end and the lower ball joint. I think the lower ball joint's only like $13, so it's okay. I'm gonna do a couple of little things and let the sun kind of get further back. I'm sitting in the sunlight here, so, and then I'll go up here to my usual place and get a ball joint, get a tie rod in. So because I'm just not going to drive a car with it doing that. At least the brakes look okay. Yeah, she said this thing's set for 4 months. There's no way. When you see all these cobwebs all over everything, there's no way. No way. But we can fix it. We have the technology. So, alrighty then. I guess I'll be making a video on ball joint replacement here coming up. So, thanks for watching, guys. Tune in then. See ya. Right then, let's look at what's going to take to get this ball joint removed. We'll take a look under here, and you can see on the bottom there's a cotter key right there. I've already straightened it out, and this is going to be knocked out. And then you'll take that nut off at the bottom, and just looking at it, looks like it's about a 17. I'll tell you for sure a little bit later on when I find out for sure. And then you're going to have to separate that joint right there. Sometimes they come right off, sometimes they don't. So you can maybe take you maybe a mallet or something to mar up anything, and maybe do some tapping up here on the top of that thing there. If not, you may have to resort to using a ball joint tool, which I hope I don't, but we'll see. And then after that, looks like we're just going to have to take the bolts out. There's one here. It looks like just eyeballing it's a 14 or a 15, and once again I'll tell you for sure. And there's one over on this side somewhere. You should be able to see it. I can't see the viewfinder, but we're going to pull them out, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about the thing flying apart, because this is just another self-contained strut assembly. The spring's contained up there. It's not going to blow anything apart when you take that loose, so don't worry about that. And dripping over here is where I've been just doing some cleaning with some brake cleaner to get that oil off that was under here. And so you have to, don't be concerned about that. So okay then, well, I shall go ahead and commence with the cotter key removal and lower nut removal, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, well, I've gotten this ball joint broken loose, but I had to resort to using the tool over there. Took several swings with my brass hammer on that to get that broken loose. It's like everything else on this car, it doesn't want to be repaired, but that's too bad because it's going to be repaired. So anyway, I've got this loose. I left the little nut on it over here just to keep things from going too crazy. So what I'm doing now is I've got kind of something that I don't necessarily suggest doing, but I'm kind of using my bottle jack and piece of 2x4 here to raise this suspension up just a little, so give me some more working room to get this pulled loose down here, because sometimes it's kind of futzy to get that thing to clear. But kind of thinking about this, I may not even have to do that, because, well, I may have to anyway, because this thing bolts in, like I said, and the kit up there supplied me nuts and bolts, but this one does not have any nuts on it. It just goes up, bolts straight into the spindle. So I'm going to fool this a little bit and see where I get with it as far as what's easier to do, and I'll sure let you know on that what I end up doing to get this loose. So let's go forward. See you then. Okay, I determined that sway bar just wasn't going to let that lower control arm go down far enough with it being attached, so I took the bolt out. That took another one of my assortment of pry bars and stuff like that. And so anyway, I got that loose. That's a 19 bolt, so you might as well plan to take that out. Okay, I got the old one out, which was no easy feat. It's totally worn out, just like I suspected from the noise it was making. There's a new one ready to go back in, which won't be an easy feat either. Had to end up taking the tie rod end loose, so guess that's supposed to do that. So anyway, it's worn out too. So I tell you what, taking this stuff apart on this car is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. You just keep taking stuff apart till finally everything pops out of place or into place. So anyway, somebody's already been under here working on this. You can see they've bent the brake shield. But this is the original Volvo part there, so you can see that. It lasted 175,000 miles and it's shot. So, alright then, let's put it back together. Alright man, reassembly is just the reverse of disassembly. Just put those two bolts back in. Those, by the way, are 17mm bolts that hold that in. I know this is kind of late telling you that, but just put those in and get them snug. You'll have to put everything, including the tie rod, back in to get it all where you can torque it down. And this new nut here is jam nut, 19. I put Loctite on these and I put Loctite on that, even though that's a jam nut. It's got plastic in it so it doesn't come off easily. And then you'll need to put the sway bar link back in with its bolt. And I've got to replace this tie rod in, so normally you could just go ahead and put this back in, but I've got to do that. So the boot's broken on this thing on the inside right there, so that ain't good, but deal with that down the road someplace. Literally doesn't seem very loose or anything right now, so maybe we'll be okay for a while. Maybe we'll have a few more miles of smiles, but we'll see. You know, to make a little commentary, I always make some commentary on things here. You know, these people, we live here in this neighborhood, and these residents, they take care of their houses and their yards, and they walk and they run, they push strollers and stuff, and you know, it gives you the illusion that this is a really nice place and it's really kind of a upper crust neighborhood, but believe me, it's not. This is middle class estates here. I went around the corner down that way to work on a guy's truck yesterday afternoon, and he's drunk. He's a painter and he drinks, so he's drunk already, and then he's telling me about listening to this UPS truck. He's driving slow today. Usually he's faster than that. But anyway, so he's telling me about all these neighbors down there. He says, yeah, those people over there on drugs, and they're all strung out, and the other ones they drink, and you know, drugs this, drugs that, crack here, meth. You know, this place ain't no better than nowhere else. It doesn't matter how much you screw around with your yard and paint your trim on your house. This is still just a middle of the road neighborhood. Because when you live in an upper crust neighborhood, you don't hear dogs barking all the time. You don't see crappy cars coming by. You don't see weird looking people walking up and down the street. So don't even give me that. Don't even go there. Alright, let's get this tie rod end replaced. I'll just say I think Volvo sometimes is a diabolical organization. This tie rod end has fought me since yesterday afternoon to get this thing off here. I've been trying to figure out a way to get it loose. It was seized into the end of the tie rod there, so I loosened this nut up just a little bit, not much, just enough to, you know, move the interference off of this. And so now, after some fits and starts and other ideas didn't work, I finally just decided I was just gonna clamp on my vice grips to that tie rod and pull down on this as hard as I could with this thing still attached in there. So let me see if I can give you an auditory example of how tight and corroded up this thing must be. And yes, there is a jack stand and a jack under here. There it comes. Golly. Whew. Worse than that a while ago when I first got it to turn it. And this is after soaking it with PB all night, and well, this morning actually. I forgot to do it last night. Soaking it with PB, and then I had to get the torch out. I got it as hot as I could dare to get it before it burst into flame, and then doused it with water. So, man, what an ordeal. Thanks, Volvo. Pretty rusty. Okay then, here's the new one ready to go on. This has actually got a Zert fitting that I put in here, came with, which the old one is not. So, and I was looking, this is in a Duralast box. This is a house brand from AutoZone, and I was looking at the bottom of this thing, and it actually says Federal Mogul steering on it. So it's probably a pretty good piece here, I hope. We got a cotter key and a nut in there, and I went ahead and put some anti-seize on this. Morning, so we're ready to go. Okay then, ladies and germs, I think we're about to wrap this up finally. I couldn't be more glad to be wrapping it up. This was a chore to do this, but put the tie rod end on, and I think our alignment's going to be in the ballpark. It's going to need one anyway, because I saw that tire over there is kind of feather edging. But everything back together. Put your cotter keys in there, there, and the torque rating on this is TTS. This one's TTS. 17 bolts that hold the ball joint to the spindle, that's TTS, and the torque rating for that is TTS. And you may be asking, what is TTS? Well, TTS is tighten the out of it, so works for me. So one thing I'm going to come back and do is I kind of narf this a little bit, this tie rod, and put my channel locks on it. So I'm going to come back and go get a grinder wheel, and I'm going to use my grinder to smooth these down so it doesn't create a stress point in there. And then I'm going to hit it with some paint so it won't rust. And I guess the only other thing worth mentioning is, notice when I took that wheel off, it was almost stuck on there. And so this, you know, the dissimilar metals thing, I don't know if that wheel is aluminum. I think it's aluminum. So it was a little bit stuckage on there, stuck. So I put some anti-seize on it. I think I'm getting addicted to anti-seize. I use it for a lot of stuff. So hopefully that won't be a problem next time around. Anybody has to do this. It's okay then. Well, appreciate you watching. I'm going to leave that left side alone for right now. I'm not up to tackling this, and plus this is taking a lot of my time up to work on this when I want to be working on something else. So I'm going to do that now, and I haven't heard any clunks back there, so it's time to put the wheel back on, let her down, and call it good. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, please ask them. Comment, rate, subscribe. Tell your friends. See you around.